perro es mi corazón. El gato no es bueno. Cilantro es picante, cilantro es mimoso, cilantro es el hombre que se cante al diablo.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you.
On another Sans Frans podcast.
Welcome to the Sans Frans podcast. I'm your host, Swedish Turnip.
And I am Andrew Soreballs.
We don't need you.
No.
For this.
It's a lot quieter.
It is. It's
always nice and quiet.
Andrew, why don't you tell us a little bit about that glass you're drinking out of?
This is a wonderful Home Outfitters brand double old-fashioned glass.
Yeah, the Home Outfitters is the retailer. It's some German brand of glass.
Oh, it's not okay. It's a German brand of this.
Yeah.
Wonderful tumbler. Feels fantastic in the hand. Holds a fuck of a lot more than you think.
Yes, it does.
I initially had this drink in a big pint glass, and it easily 6 ice cubes and all poured into this, no problem.
It's beautiful. It makes you feel really important.
It does. I'm a big fan of Mad Men, and I feel like I'm a madman while I'm
drinking that beverage.
Yes.
I think there comes a time in every young person's life when they transition to nicer glassware, and I'm so ready to throw out all of my stupid, not my collectible glasses, because I still like those, but like
the plastic and
I don't
shitty.
even throw them out, just like donate them to Goodwill, like glasses that have like cool designs on them and shit.
I feel like, again, I as a parent, I have a different perspective on this.
Right, of course.
Because I am definitely at that stage where I'm transitioning out of the shitty glassware. But you also want to keep some stuff that you don't give a fuck about.
Oh yeah, you have
that your kid, or like when other kids are over for whatever, like you want to keep some of it.
I'll be honest with you, I don't have a lot of kids over.
Well, but I mean, like, as you have more friends that have kids, though.
Right.
Like, as Drew grows up.
Right.
Like, he's not really at an age where I can bring him over here and he can just, like, sit and play for half an hour while we do something. But
honestly,
2 years
I would
from
have
now,
him over here, but fucking he dusts a bottle of rye off. And it takes no time at all. And I'm constantly going to Sobeys Liquor to feed your 2-year-old.
Lies and slander.
I think it's exceptional that such a young man can open his throat like that when he's slamming straight whiskey. I guess right into the podcast. P.O. Box 480, Toronto, Ontario. If your kid could kill a bottle,
send us a video.
How quick can your kid kill a bottle? Whoever kid kills a bottle the fastest, you're going to get to be flown out here to Toronto on set. We'll put you up 2 days in the Super 8, and we'll do a 3-meal package from Denny's, 2 entrees, 2 sides,
but you gotta
2 drinks. We'll call it the 222 package.
But you've got to pay for your return flight.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll get you out here to P.O. Box 480, Toronto, Ontario.
But you got to pay the return flight. See, normally we film this podcast when it's the Prehistoric podcast. We're filming in Saskatoon. But because it's a Sans Frans podcast, we fly to our identical studio in headquarters in Toronto.
Right, it's more kind of, I guess, in Oshawa, like at.
It's GTA.
Yeah, we're in the GTA. Yeah, I gotta be getting that GTA or something.
Because the boys in the hood are always hard. Yeah.
Today, Andrew and I want to talk a little bit, just because we don't have a little boy on the podcast today.
We're gonna talk about some man
We're
stuff.
gonna talk about some man stuff, you know. Hanging big wank, crushing,
spending a bunch of squanks on a bunch of stuff for your fucking
bitches.
Fucking bitches.
I think Andrew's gonna tell us one. I love when Andrew tells me about things. I actually, instead of watching a movie, I'll just get him to describe it to me and I'll close my eyes, because he's a far better storyteller than these Hollywood yaps.
Well,
Andrew,
thank you.
why don't you tell us a little bit about the mangrove, or what were you talking about?
Bohemian Grove. I don't know a whole lot about it.
He knows more than he lets on.
Well, no, I'm just
You should
prefacing.
be very proud of him.
This is part of the story that I'm telling. I was going to say I don't know a whole lot about it, but neither does anyone really who's not been there.
Right.
And even then, like there are people like reporters who were there, who didn't get like the full experience. They snuck in, so they didn't get like the full experience, but they saw some of it. And I mean, again, like if you've seen House of Cards all the way up until now, you'll have seen there's the whole episode and a half ish where Frank is at Bohemian Grove, and I mean, I'll start with what the likely story, what the likely story is. All these really wealthy, powerful, yeah,
like
it's old. It's like it's basically like, I don't know who it is who decides, but people who are part of the fold invite you there, and you have to be like a wealthy, powerful.
Like these are like the Rockefellers and the Koch brothers and the Walton family and Jerry
the super elite, wealthy, powerful. I don't think it's not really much about fame. I don't think it's like powerful and or wealthy. Not necessarily, because there are lots of politicians who aren't super wealthy who get to go.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think it's the wealthy people who invite you if you're a politician. But anyways, this exclusive club, and they wear these weird cloaks.
And it goes out in the middle of the forest, right?
In the middle of a forest, this clearing in the middle of a forest. There's a big fucking owl statue, and they do some weird like chanty ritual thing, and it's like quite satanic. A lot of people have said.
It's in Monte Rio, California.
Yes. There's lots of theories about this place. Some like of the nuttier people say that, like they sacrifice a child every year at these events, and like there's like weird like pedophile shit that goes on there, and it's all these powerful people. So, and it's like kind of like secluded area. So some people think that like just a bunch of weird sex shit happens, and yeah, that's basically it. No one really knows for sure, I don't think.
The camps where people stay they're named the Hillbillies, Mandalay, Caveman, Stowaway, Uplifters, the Owl's Nest, Hideaway, Isle of Aves, Lost Angels, Silverado Squatters, Sempervirens, Hillside, and Idlewild. Each camp has a captain, and one of his many jobs is the upkeep of the area. Fuck, this is crazy. Anyway, so essentially, they get together once a year for 2 weeks, 3 weekends. So you arrive on a weekend, stay that weekend, the following week, that weekend, the following week, and then that final weekend.
Okay.
You take off like on a Monday or Tuesday. So essentially, they just make all the world's decisions there in about 2 weeks, and kind of decide, how much we're going to pay for bread and what penis pills are going to look like over the next, 6 to 8 months.
Whatever the important stuff is.
Exactly. Like
penis, and apparently also
enlargement syringes and penis pumps
and that's totally not my bag.
Baby.
Yeah. No, it's just so weird because obviously some shit like that happens. Like they have to be sitting there and talking about important decisions.
Yeah.
But what other shit goes on? Who knows? And I know that it's likely that it's just another one of those really exclusive clubs, so they have a weird ritual thing surrounding it just because it's a fucking 100-year-old club. Why not have some weird
ritual
thing that kind of makes it seem really mysterious and creepy? But at the same time, maybe there is some weird creepy shit going on there. Maybe they do sacrifice a child every year.
It's interesting because it bridges the gap between cinema storytelling and the real world, and this weird gray area where some weird shit is going on.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the third time I've been invited. I haven't gone. I'm usually busy that week.
You're usually you're flying from Bangladesh to Beijing to Indonesia to the UK.
I have no time to be having a little
New York
over in California.
Yeah, you're not really a West Coast guy, really.
No. Yeah.
You'll fly out of there, but not really.
Just to get across.
Yeah.
Across. When I hop the pond, that's when I go.
Yeah. It's the only way to do it.
I go LA and then I'll stay in whatever 5 seasons is close to the hotel there.
4 seasons, maybe.
5 seasons. No, this is the 5th season.
I'd say it's the more exclusive 5 seasons.
Yeah. I stay at the 5 seasons by Sheraton.
Lousy smarch weather.
Yeah, smart. So interesting, you know, like what.
Well, conspiracy theories fascinate the fuck out of me. Even though most of them I know are just total bullshit. And the reason they fascinate me is, how does anyone believe that? Like, I watched this little Vice thing the other day about this guy who firmly believes that there is literally a race of lizard people that control humanity. And that the moon is like a thing that blocks signals and broadcasts new ones to create this kind of like matrixy thing where we don't know what's really going on, and prevents us from seeing who the lizard people are. And I don't know how he's not just locked up in a mental institution, because that's some crazy shit. But
I'm sure I've talked about this on the podcast before. Have I talked about Coast to Coast AM?
You mentioned it before, I think.
If you go on, if you're around the southwestern Saskatchewan area, go to 101.7, or if you're closer to Regina or Saskatoon, you tune into CGME or whatever the local radio station is, where they have news talk. After 11 o'clock, depends on the time change, and before like 4 or 5 in the morning, there's this radio program called Coast to Coast AM.
And he just has the
Andrew, we should just stay up one night and listen to it. I'd have to go on the programming and see what night it's going to be, like what the
I'd love to, yeah.
Like, these people, like, honestly, it's like, I wrote a book about how the pyramids are rocket ships, and like they're all making our penises smaller, and like there's people who live under Detroit, and like and all these people call in, they're like, I know, like, hello, this is Cletus, just want to let you know I'm calling from the great state of Georgia. Roger, I'm right there with you. I know these ant people are under Detroit. I've seen them. I've heard them. I was taken from my family for quite some time.
By these ant people.
Roger, I want you to know you're fighting a good fight, and everybody here in the great state of Georgia, he's here to tell you you're doing good things for the great, for Tennessee and for Georgia.
These ant people, they abducted me. They forced me. They tried to make me gay. I spent 6 weeks of my life pursuing men for just the ant people scrambling my brain up.
They put a decoder ring in my cereal, George. They put that decoder ring in my cereal. I had sex with my son.
Oh God!
And it's because the ant people are scrambling my brain. I have an upcoming court case. I need you to be there.
I need you to help me prove that these ant people exist, that they scrambled my brain, and that is what caused my actions.
Yeah.
No, it's so, like, I love that stuff, because it's just, and that's probably not even far off from what they talk about.
It's not. It's like, I am a much tamer, more unimaginative version of it. I have never sat. My mouth got dry because my jaw was on the ground for so long, listening to these fucking people.
Because the thing is, like, all those people talk with such, like, they're
fervor.
Like it's like there's no doubt in their mind. They're so clear.
And everybody else is such a fool.
Yeah.
How could you guys? This is Tommy.
All these all these sheeple don't recognize what the real truth is.
All these
signs, yeah. Well, it's like with that Vegas shooting thing, that video that you showed me. It's like there was multiple shooters. It's like this super blurry, super far away video, grainy, and you just see a light, and the camera goes like this. It's like a 2-second video. It's like the video is like entitled "Definitive Proof that there was another shooter."
Yeah,
and it's like,
that's it.
Do you see it? That's the proof. And it's like someone's video going like this.
Yeah, it's actually like 24, 30, or 40 frames. And
literally, like it's so short that you should be measuring the video in frames, not in time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Fucking people. And like all the Sandy Hook deniers who have like for years been pestering these parents, these kids. Like, you're a sick fuck lying to everybody. Like, just, your kid didn't die. Like, fuck your kid. Like, he never died. You don't have a kid. Yeah, stop lying. Stop acting. Stop trying to take our guns away. Like, oh, so fucked. I don't mind, like, mostly harmless conspiracy theories. Like, the flat earth conspiracy is fucking hilarious. Did you hear about that guy? I think he actually launched today. The flat earth guy who, like, he built his own rocket and he's going to launch himself to prove that the earth is flat.
How?
I don't know, but he built a rocket and he's like, I'm going to launch myself into space. Like, I'm going to launch myself to prove that the earth is flat. I have to look up, because I actually think it launched today, and I hope he, like, crashed. Like, he goes to launch the rocket, just
blows up. The definitive proof. I guess, as far as I'm concerned with conspiratorial stuff, obviously it comes from some grain of truth, somewhat, somewhere, something.
Well, it's like some weirdness. It's usually some weirdness that's like
patriotic weird.
we like, that's either unexplained or not fully substantiated, and instead of taking like a reasonable approach, it's like, well, that clearly means that there's lizard people under the world controlling everything. And it's like, I don't want to tie this into religion. I don't want to get into that conversation. I want to get into that conversation, but I think it's like where some people would explain whatever, like stuff we just don't, we don't know, or like the average person can't explain because they don't know, like they're not in the know about the situation. I'm talking like conspiracy for political stuff. Conspiracy theories are kind of like the religion, like, of like political and current events.
It's true, yeah.
So it's like, instead of bridging the gap with, well, someone probably just fucked up, it's like, no, like the government's putting robots in the drinking water. It has to be that.
It's making the kids gay.
Yeah. And I mean, like, the other thing that's interesting about conspiracy theories is conspiracies do happen. It's not that conspiracies don't happen. People conspire.
That's why they have credence.
Exactly. Like, it's like, they do absolutely have credence because it's weird shit's happened before. We've caught the government. Like, the Gulf of Tonkin is a perfect example of like some weird, crazy shit that the government might have pulled. Yeah. So it's like, stuff like that means that you can't just write these people off. Well, I mean, obviously not the crazier ones, like about lizard or anything that has to do with humanoid beings. I think you can probably write that off on its face. Yeah. But like some of the other stuff,
even like the older ones that are like at this point essentially
like the moon landing, and JFK, and
because for me the moon landing one has credence purely because there's motivation. The U.S. in the 1960s has to make a trip to the moon.
Oh, he postpones his plans. Sorry, go ahead.
For the arms race and the Cold War. So there's tons of motivation to stage that event. I personally don't believe that it was staged. I believe it was real. But
I mean, it would have cost them way more to fake it than it would have cost them to just do it. Yeah, is the big one. I mean, like, there's a whole like documentaries. There's whole documentaries about the moon landing being faked, and like stuff about what Neil Armstrong said, and people like interpret it in this way that's like he's saying that it's fake, and like
he's trying to
tip everyone off. But apparently this guy, man who hopes to prove the earth is flat in his homemade rocket, postpones his plans. In effort to prove the earth is flat, 61-year-old Mad Mike Hughes plans to launch himself thousands of feet in the air in a homemade rocket. But his launch, which was originally set for Saturday, today, has been postponed, the Washington Post reported Friday afternoon. Hughes was originally planning to conduct his experiment over Amboy, a ghost town situated along Route 66 in California that has a population of 4. However, the Bureau of Land Management reportedly informed him that he cannot launch his scrap metal rocket on public land. According to Hughes, the federal agency told him his experiment was a no-go. But Samantha Storms, BLM spokeswoman, said she was unaware of any communication between the self-taught rocket scientist and the agency. I think there are fewer things that you want self-taught in front of than rocket. Like a surgeon, like doctor of any kind, pilot, and rocket scientist are probably the three. Like abortionist, that's kind of doctor, I suppose. But like, what's something worse to have self-taught in front of? Other than, like, I think doctor's the only one that I can think of that's worse. Especially if it's like a doctor that's going to be doing anything to you. But like anything else, like self-taught, like let your work speak for itself. But self-taught rocket scientist, I mean, I guess he's just going to be blowing himself up, so who really gives a fuck? But
that's so true. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I guess the shrapnel could hurt people.
You gotta go to school to be a DJ. There's no way I'm gonna let some guy just fondle me in the bathroom who is self-taught. Listen, when I'm getting fucking really fondled, and I'm talking both hands and a foot.
Oh, Jesus.
It is not somebody who is teaching themselves about fondling. DJ is Die Jongler,
was the first
translated from Dutch is secret fondler, or I don't know how to. A lot of people
I think the full translation is using music as an excuse to fondle.
A lot of people, like, I think there's just a strong coincidence between people who like to play music publicly for pay or for...
Well, play, like I mean, play is in, like...
Mix.
Play.
Yeah, play music publicly. But I think that's purely coincidental. This younger, it's about secret encounters.
Secret encounters.
Usually in the men's room.
Yeah. Those Europeans are into some weird shit.
Yeah, the young is younger.
Let's talk about the board game that we both just recently discovered and played.
So
Agricola.
We just played a game called Agricola. Looks like Agricola. Agricola.
Wonderful game. Absolutely.
It was introduced to me by a colleague.
In one of your numerous business endeavors.
Right, in one of my endeavors, one of my colleagues is big into strategy board games. And making tons of shitloads of money as kind of his two favorite things. And
he's all out of making money.
There's no more money to be made. So he introduced me to Agricola. It's an awesome board game for any of you who have played.
Any of yous? Oh, I hate that fucking word so much.
Any of you who's played Settlers of Catan. Any of you who's played Settlers of Catan, you're gonna know this fucking game.
It's way more fun than Settlers of Catan, I find. My family loves.
It's a little bit more of a board gamer's game, though. Like,
it is, but I mean, like,
there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on, and I know what you mean by saying that, but I feel like with Settlers of Catan, it's such a slower game. In so many ways.
I feel like with Agricola, it would be funner to have a banker.
Have someone who just did the banking.
Stockpiles the resources and stuff.
Like, that was their only role.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. You know who I'd really like to play that game with, and we might have to before the podcast? Greg and Aspen are both avid board game players.
Really?
So it might be fun to play with them, just because I know that they play Settlers of Catan, but they like have a bunch of boards they made. Remember that when we were doing Runaway, I think it was.
Can't remember.
We were up at Pipe. Yeah, it must have been because we were up there for like the whole weekend, and they set up this huge, like they combined multiple boards, and we made this huge board on that table in Piepot. Like, huge fucking board.
Like, the thing that I just sucks is like, that's so cool, except now that I've played this game, Settlers of Catan sucks.
Exactly. Like, it's true. It's way more fun. There's something cool about you're playing with other people, but also more playing like playing with yourself, because you've got your own like little board where you're building your farm. Mm-hmm. So something kind of cool about that.
It's a resource collection and management game where you build a farm, including your farmhouse, your family, plowing fields, and you have
professions and
professions and stuff. It's so cool.
It's a victory point game, so it's like each thing that you build and card that you play factors into the ultimate victory points that you have. And there's also like the element of like you have to gather enough food to feed your people or else you're fucked. Yeah. I was surprised that neither of us weren't able to feed our people.
No.
Which was cool. I was expecting, well, maybe I don't know. Wasn't really expecting anything. I really want to play it again now that I know. Just like I've played it. I know like what kinds of things matter.
I haven't gotten really fun cards yet. So
yeah.
there's like these. There's other like things you can do, like minor improvements to your farm. Like there's these little advantage things you can do, and there's some really cool ones that I think fit better to my playing style, and I would say yours too.
Well, but I mean, like that's the fun thing about that game though, is like we could easily make up our own version of it, rules of it. Like maybe next time we play, we start with an extra house and.
You really want to start with an extra house, the person.
Well, no, but I mean, or I'm thinking like either that or we maybe pick our cards instead of random ones, or you get to pick 2 of them and the rest are random. Or that's what I love about Catan and like most of the Euro style games that I've played. They really lend themselves well to, I don't like that rule, we're going to change it, or we want to add this rule or play this differently, and you keep everything else the same, and it doesn't like ruin the game. The integrity of the game is still there, but that one thing, either it speeds the game up, or like, for example, I mean, I know it's a really common thing, but we usually play in Settlers of Catan when my family plays. There's no robber for the first 3 rounds of the game, just so everyone can like get established. Yeah. And then if you roll a 7, you just re-roll again, until you roll, like, until you don't roll a 7. And like that's like a minor rule. It's pretty common in that community, but it gives it just gives you time to get established. And there's some people who are very serious, like by the books players, who wouldn't like that, but I enjoy that kind of thing. We've also played where there's 3 of us, my mom, my sister, and I will play, and we'll play on a 4 to 6 person board, so there's more space to build and expand, and we'll play the base game, but instead of playing to 10 victory points, we'll play to 12 or 15, and like what we've played once, where you start with a city and a settlement instead of just 2 settlements, and like little things like that just make the game. It adds flavor to the game.
What I like about Agricola too is that it has a set time.
Yeah, like the rounds.
I hate like.
Well, that's the thing with Catan.
Because for me, what I like is I like to build up and then kind of strike. Whereas like Catan, like you got to keep going, because if you get too far behind, as soon as somebody gets the points, they win, right? It's over. Yeah. Like if you build the longest road and then you're at 10, you win. That's it. Game's over.
Well, it's like to kind of bring it to maybe something listeners will be able to understand a little bit more. But it's like when you're playing an online game, like a shooter, like Call of Duty. There's 2 ways to win. There's either whoever has the most points at the end of a 10-minute round, or if you get to 75 kills, it's over. Yeah. And what I like about Agricola is that there's no point limit. It's just you have this number of rounds to play, and whoever has the most points at the end of that set number of rounds wins. And I know what you mean. Like it gives you like parameters, and in that kind of those parameters, you can kind of build a strategy of, okay, like I'm going to strike here when this resource is built up over the last few turns, and it's a very different. And like you're out of the gun,
it's not very long. Like by the time you actually start getting some resources, there's like 4 turns left.
It's so true. And I mean, like that's the other thing is like, because it only takes like maybe an hour to play. I mean, maybe a little bit more if the more people you have, but
if like it was you and I now that you know how to play,
it would take us like half an hour, not even. And I love that because then instead of like sitting down to play one game of Risk that takes you potentially like hours and hours and hours or days, you can play best of 3 in Agricola for like 2 hours and still have you had fun playing it, but then you still have the rest of your evening or day to do something.
I just don't like, even when I'm playing Agricola, yeah. I I just like building my little farm. Like I don't necessarily even think about victory points till the end.
Yeah.
Whereas like Risk, you get so invested. Like when your army gets decimated, it's like, oh, like it took me 3 hours to get that assembled.
Not to mention you lose based on fucking dice roll.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not like, oh, that person's outmaneuvered me. It's like, well, they were defending and they just only rolled double sixes for 12 rolls in a row. Like there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
That's the most frustrating thing for me with Risk is like you can be the best, have the best strategy and lose because the other person just rolls sixes all day.
My brother just rolled sixes all the time, box cards.
Fucking annoying. And Monopoly again, like that's just such a game of chance, and it ruins families. I remember when I was young, I used to be the worst loser, the most sore. Like I would get fucking angry and like scream and like get so upset that like I would like tears would be coming out of my eyes because I was so fucking angry about losing at fucking Monopoly.
I was never as bad at Monopoly, but I was bad at Risk. I was very pouty at Risk. But like when you're young, like I must have been like 12, and it's just like
It's at the same age.
So fucking invested in this game now because like sometimes we'd start playing like 5 o'clock and it'd be 11 hours, like 4 in the morning. And it's like now I'm losing. I'm like, God damn it. And my brother was just always a dick to me.
I buy it.
What we always came up with new rules, but the one rule I liked the best is because when you have like 4 or 5 players and you're playing Risk and it gets really long, we had created the UN, so we used the white pieces as UN pieces. So if the 2 of you agreed on a UN border, then you would put like a cannon on the UN border, and then if you wanted to attack, you had to remove double the units to get rid of it. So if you wanted to attack on this agreed border, then you had to get rid of 2 of your cannons. Or like if it was a horse, you had to get rid of a cannon. Or 2 people is 4 people.
Right.
So it was like...
So provided a barrier, an extra barrier for that person.
Well, yeah, just people. Like it got to this point where it was like, my brother would always build up his guys on his border. And I'm like, this is fucking stupid. Like, he's like, I'm just defending myself. I'm like, I know that's not true. And it's like, I'm not taking your word for it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and like, that's the thing. Like, Risk, by its nature, because it's also like it's so tedious. You have all like the little fucking guys. You have to like move them. Anytime you knock them over, it's like fuck. It takes like 5 minutes to like set all these little guys back up, and it's so tedious. And like, you also like from the beginning of the game, you're like, I have a strategy. I'm going to try to execute the strategy, and
you have to be adaptive. And I'm so bad at being adaptive. Yeah. I'm so bullheaded with my strategy.
Same here. And then, the thing, again, why I almost refuse to play Risk is because it doesn't fucking matter. All that matters is how you roll. Like you can have a great strategy, but it doesn't matter if every time you go to attack, box cars.
It very rarely does somebody just annihilate you with box cars every time.
No, it's true, but it's like, again, like you could be making like a really, maybe it's not every time, but it's like you're attacking 10 on 4. And you need to take 2 things to get this thing to like sway the game, and you lose all but you win the initial fight, and then you lose like all your guys, so you can't attack the next one, right. Or it's like 3 on 1. It's like box car, done.
Defended.
Yeah. So I mean, I like the idea of Risk. I wish that there was a way to like, and again, like this is where video games come in. Because it's easier to do more complex things when a computer does a lot of the legwork.
Yeah.
And you're not physically having to like dole out resources and whatever. But I wish that there was a little bit more action in a game like Settlers of Catan. Mm. And I will admit that when you add in like, have you ever played Cities and Nights version of Settlers of Catan?
I don't really remember.
It makes it a lot more fun. Because you add in, it makes it kind of like a light version of Agricola, because like how it works is you have, so normally in base level Settlers of Catan, when you have a city, if a city is on a resource, you just get 2 instead of 1. But in Cities and Nights, it adds in commodities to the resources. So on sheep you get a sheep and a wool. Or you get an ore and with the city you get an ore and a coin, and on wood you get a wood and a paper, and you spend these commodities to build improvements, and these improvements give you different victory points as well as different things.
Like what?
You get like these. You get each city improvement. So it's like green is paper, and that's like abbey. You build up your abbey. Blue is military. You spend coin to do it, and then yellow is like merchant trade routes and stuff. Is the idea, and so there's barbarians that attack. So it also adds the event die. So on the event die, if you roll a barbarian ship, the barbarians get one closer to attacking Catan, and if you roll, so 3 sides are barbarian. 3 sides are yellow, blue, or red. And if you have the higher improvement of your city, the more chance you have to get a card. So if you roll a yellow and the red dice is a 3, and you have your city improved to a yellow 3, you get like one of these cards, and it'll be like similar to development cards, but different and better effects. Okay. Like anytime, like collect everyone's commodities, or like it also adds knights into the game, and you have to have active knights to defend from the barbarians.
What happens if the barbarians?
If the barbarians attack, the person who contributed the least knights to defend Catan loses a city, so their city gets downgraded to a settlement.
Okay. So you're kind of working together.
If the person who contributes the most knights gets a Defender of Catan victory point card.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want to be the ball 5 that's like rolling up on them bitches.
Well, you could, but it's like it costs a lot like knights cost. You have to spend a week to activate them, plus you have a sheep and an ore to build them, and then you can upgrade them. But you have a limited number of knights. You can only have like the most you can have is like 6 or 8 or something like that. And the strength of the barbarians is calculated by the number of cities that you have. So if you only have 3 cities, you only need 3 knights total. If you only have 3 cities total, you only need 3 knights to defend Catan. And the tie goes to the defenders. So the more cities you have, the more knights you need.
Okay, but so if you win, there's no downgrading anything.
No, barbarians go back to 0. There's like a little like sideboard, and you count like there's like it's like 6 rolls, 6 times. If you roll the event die 6 times, it hits barbarian, then the barbarians attack.
Have you ever played around where they never even got in?
No. Well, the other thing is like that's where we got the idea for the robber thing, but the barbarians don't start rolling the event die until after the first 3 rounds.
Okay.
And then after that, once you have like a little bit of time to build up, then the barbarians come. But no, like, I mean, there's been good stretches where it's like you just keep rolling
good things.
The things that give you like I can't remember, it's not a development card. It's like a
anyway. The whole point is that the knights are a ball 5. I'm a ball 5.
It just adds something different to Catan that gives it a little bit more action, a little more depth.
Yeah.
But nowhere near what Agricola does. But I agree. Like, I know you're not much of a board game guy. I know, but I know like you're not interested in general in board games now. But Agricola is one that you
I like it a lot.
Enjoy.
Yeah. For me, it just took on everything that I liked about Settlers of Catan, except it's just got more meat, and I like that.
Yeah,
because I like strategy based computer games. Mm-hmm. It feels a little bit more like that.
It does, well, especially because there's no dice rolling.
Yeah.
There's no luck. I mean, the only luck that there is like what cards you get.
Yeah, what cards you got.
But you can make stuff work based on whatever cards. Like that's where the strategy, I guess, kind of comes in, and where you're limited is you have to build a strategy around
what cards you get.
the 10 cards that you get.
Yeah. I think there's nothing wrong with that. Like I think
no, I mean like again, like I think there would be something to maybe selecting cards, or like doing something like that where it's like Yeah, like you pick which ones are are the obvious best cards.
Yeah.
And you do a whoever gets first pick can't go first or something like that, and then you go back and forth between the top 4 cards. You each get to pick 2 of them, or however you want to do that, and that just might add.
Now, when Shay said what you can do, which I didn't do this time, you could do a mulligan where
You take all new 5 cards.
No, you take you get 6.
Oh, 6.
So if you mulligan, you only get 5, and then you can mulligan again and get 4, and mulligan again and get 3 if you keep not liking your cards.
Oh.
But there's just I've only played twice so far, but the 2 hands that I've been dealt, there's just some cards that don't work with each other. So you kind of have to go with a lot of the cards are either early or end game strategy. So you kind of have to.
I find the most limiting cards, I had 2 that were, I couldn't even play them until I had a stone house.
Yeah.
I didn't even have the capability to do that until the 3rd last turn. And they were both cards that depended on you getting a stone house early so you could benefit from the benefit of this card. So they were essentially useless cards to me in the game, primarily just partly because of the strategy that I took, but also partly because of just how the game unfolded.
Yeah.
So that, and we already talked about this off podcast, but the game is largely dependent on reads, and they're very finite.
Yes, they are.
And I feel like that is a flaw. There's no secondary way to get reads. You can't trade.
No, but I think that's part of it, is that you either have to decide if you're going for the maxed house or to focus on the other stuff.
It's true, but it's when the other person gets
if you focus on the animals, you get a shitload of points. If you get 6 cows at the end of the game, it's 12 points or something. It's stupid.
Right, but it's so hard to get there if the other person has double the moves that you have. If I only get to make 2 moves,
right,
I'm pretty crippled, right?
The reads to get the house maxed out is 6.
It's true, but
to get 5 people, you only need 4 reads, because you can build 2 rooms and get a 5th person that doesn't need a bedroom.
It's true. It's true. And you can't even make new people until end of, after the 2nd harvest.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, you should check it out if you're interested in board games. Check out Agricola.
We may do a podcast where we play it if we can figure out how to make that work. We're still trying to think if it would even be worth watching. So
we're still trying to make this work.
Yeah. Well, we are trying a bit of a crunch, trying to make it to episode 100 for the 12th podcast of Christmas. We're going to do it.
It's happening.
It's happening. It's just we have to make it happen now. Yeah. So there's going to be some 3-parters. There's going to be maybe some Let's Play podcasts combine.
Some Agricola.
Maybe some Agricola. Maybe I don't know. We're going to think of some tricks and whatever to make that happen. But
the trickster god Loki. What, Loki?
Fucking Loki.
That name really rings true for you, doesn't it?
It does. It's something I shan't talk about on camera, but
an important part of your life.
An important part of my life, indeed. I wonder if he's still alive or not. Probably.
Oh, I doubt it.
I think so. He went to a good home.
Yeah.
Well, he went to a home.
He went to a good home.
Oh, fuck. Anyways, Brad, why don't you tell us a little bit about the burgeoning new market that you're involved in? Which one? I'm talking about, of course, the solar energy market. Because it's something I'm fascinated with. And I know there's some obvious applications to it. But what are some things about solar that people might not know or understand, or might not fully grasp why it's obviously it's important for environmental reasons now, but why is it economically a thing that we should be looking
I think
at?
that's the big thing, that the focus that people need to take in the industry right now is pushing the agenda of explaining to people the economic viability of solar.
Right, because and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't mean to cut you off, but how I've kind of understood it is it's an initially significant investment if you're a homeowner, let's say, to invest in solar, but there's a tremendous long-term benefit to doing that. And is that kind of what the...
So, I mean, for those of you who have any sort of TFSA investments or buy government bonds or anything really basic, mutual fund stuff, solar performs as well as a guaranteed government bond at 5%. So, for example, money sitting in your checking account probably gets less than 1% interest return. This is a 5% return over every year. It's an annual 5% return.
And that's just from not paying power bills?
Right, exactly. So a lot of people don't seem to understand that, no, SAS Power isn't paying you, but money that you don't have to spend is money you're keeping, which is as good as profit. So...
you're essentially prepaying for...
You're buying your power forever. You're buying your own power plant.
Yeah, for the rest of the life, however long you own that house.
Exactly. So... you know, instead of, essentially you're just SAS Power is generating power for you, and you're paying them for it. In this way, you're generating your own power, so you don't need to pay a supplier to create that power for you. And the other thing is that there's no production cost. If you're producing power with
any other means,
obviously there's an expense to that, because you have to mine the oil, or drill for oil or mine for coal, and then burn that coal. There's a lot of expenses that go into that. But once the solar system is installed, it's generating power for free. They haven't found a way to charge us for the sun yet.
Yeah.
But as it stands right now, it's a free way to generate power. How it works in Saskatchewan is there's really three types of ways. There is going off grid, so you can't,
which is illegal.
Well, you can go off grid. You can just stay essentially tied into SAS Power's grid, but you're never using their power. So you have your own solar system set up. You're still technically in their line, but you just have a switch that lets you switch from your service bank of batteries powering your house to their overhead line.
And that's not fully feasible right now just because of how expensive the batteries are. Right.
It's feasible because if you think about it, if the solar system costs you $100,000, it will eventually pay for itself.
Right.
The systems for the average homeowner are $100,000 for those you consumers.
That was my next question, but
the system will always pay for itself. It's about how long is that payback period is usually the first question. Right now, the payback period is probably in that
15
No,
years?
8 to 12. 8 to 12
wow,
years.
that's much better
how
than...
power rates are right now.
Right, and they're only going to go up.
And that's the other thing. SAS Power's power rates are probably going to be up 25% in the next 5 years by the sounds of it. And with that being said...
I mean, this is just Saskatchewan where we have pretty low power prices compared to Ontario and Quebec where you're getting fisted in the ass for power.
Now, the important thing to remember is that when you look at that payback period, so, okay, 12 years is up, my system's paid for, that's awesome, I own my own system. Now, not only are you generating your own power, you don't have to pay your power bill anymore, but you own that system, and that system has value. So, if you... the system needs to change, but obviously right now, like, the ability for a property assessor to do a proper property value in this province is a little bit behind. I don't know what that looks like yet. We're doing our due diligence. But when you sell that house, and your prospective buyer comes, and you have your house and another house identical to each other, that's a huge selling feature. You never have to pay your power bill again. You move into this house, you never have to pay a power bill again. Now, I'll explain what I'm doing, which I think is...
Well, especially with the property that you own in Moose Jaw right now.
It's a super complementary system. And it's because I have tenants living in this property. And instead of them paying for their utility bill, I cover the utility bill and they pay an all-in fee every month.
Which just, it simplifies things for the renter.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it simplifies things for you.
Absolutely. So... they're paying me for the electricity they use through their rent, and I'm getting the electricity for free. So I'm really just letting them pay for my solar installation system. Once the system's paid for, I've got all the equity that's in the solar system. And then every month they're paying me for that electricity. So not only am I not paying a power bill, I'm actually making money on top of that.
It seems like that's almost your target market initially is people who own rental properties. I think that's like an easier sell almost.
It's hugely advantageous, right? Because
it's such a powerful combination of things.
I think it really is, and I'm the house that we're in right now. It's an older home. The insulation's not very good, so
your heating bill's
outrageous. My heating bill is outrageous because I converted over to electric furnace, electric water heater. Now, if I was a shrewd, economic, purely for a financial perspective investor, I probably wouldn't have gotten rid of my electric furnace and my electric water heater right away, just because it's so much cheaper to run them. Even though I have a high efficiency furnace, gas is dirt cheap.
Yeah.
But I don't have my full solar system up and running yet. But the goal here is that when the electricity, when I have my solar system up and running, and I'm generating power back into the grid from SAS Power. That's how net metering works. They come install a two-way meter. When you generate electricity, the electricity gets fed back into the grid. SaskTel counts that power. Then when you use power, it counts that that's not theirs, and then it balances
the two. Yeah.
So obviously, the goal is to. I got my gas meter completely removed because what I want to do is I can't make gas. Like I have to pay for gas. So I want to convert everything over to electricity because I can make more electricity. I just have to make more panels, invest more panels.
Which I mean, you obviously get at a different better rate because it's your own company who's you can get them for the wholesale price and install them for free because it's your own company that's doing so.
Exactly.
So it's a bit of a different situation, but
it's still like
comparative.
And the other thing is like it's not that I made such a grandeur advantage from that because I ended up just taking that money that I would have probably spent from hiring a third-party contractor and invested in other stuff in the property anyway. So I'm really not that up, but that's kind of the goal moving forward is that I can move in, buy these rental properties, install these solar systems at cost. So I have a huge advantage there. But right now, because this electronics is so expensive, like I think like our power bill is going to be like $400 or $500 a month, which is like pretty outrageous, but at least for Saskatchewan. But I don't have a gas bill at all anymore. So, whereas I could probably had converted my other electricity over and already have that power bill at squill, and then my gas bill only probably still would have been like $80 or $90.
Mm-hmm.
Probably more. I don't really know what the gas bill was before. I didn't own the house in winter with gas hooked up. But the other thing that I really like about it, and I know there'll be some naysayers, but with that property in Moose Jaw, it's a little bit of peace of mind because there's not an explosive gas flowing into the property.
Well, I was going to say there's that, and on top of that, you don't have a gas bill and a power bill. It's you just have a power bill. There's one bill, power, water, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is like what water is
pretty negligible.
Pretty negligible.
Yeah.
So it's like, not only is it not there's no explosive. No, and again, like I know it's a pretty uncommon thing to happen.
But there's things to think about, like, you know,
especially when you have
carbon
tenants.
monoxide and shit like that, and like, it is a flammable gas that we're pumping in.
Dangerous flammable gas, yeah.
There's none of that with an electric furnace.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's always new advancements in breaker technology to ensure that if some sort of electrical system is disrupted or becomes dangerous, that it can kill itself with the breaker.
And it doesn't just fuck everything else up.
Gas is so much more, you know, like...
It's like if you smell gas, get the fuck out of there, call somebody.
Explosion, exactly.
Yeah. So it's no, I think that's totally a valid point. I think it's, again, like just for myself, I kind of hate when people use the phrase adulting, but there is something nice I can just think about like everything is one bill.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it might be it would be more expensive initially until you get the solar system up.
Yeah.
But after that, it's
a proof of concept thing for me, right? Like, I want to have a product that I know, because solar is going to get to the point where we had electric furnaces in the 70s. They were super.
They were cost effective when electricity was cheap.
It was cheaper, but as the price of electricity picked up and efficiency for other things came up, gas became way more efficient.
Because gas prices were leveled off and efficiency went up.
Exactly.
So
now that we're coming back to the electric furnaces, we're in a battle right now. Like the last 10 years has all been about efficiency, getting better insulation in your home to try and drop those bills down, reduce those bills. But
I think a combination of the two is the way to go,
exactly.
Right?
But there's going to be a tipping point where solar panels become so cheap that.
Sorry to cut you off. Does your is it a central air unit as well? Is it like a full a heating cooling system?
I don't have I have all the
capabilities.
The infrastructure is all built. I just don't physically have the air conditioner installed yet. They're going to install it in the spring.
Well, of course. Like, why bother till then?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, when you can have all that stuff, electricity, it's so clean. It's so easy to organize. You don't have to an electrician can then come in and do everything. You don't need a gas fitter and plumber and all that shit.
One guy can just
come in and install everything, which is really nice, and it can be maintained by an electrician. And the other thing is a gas furnace has to build up heat. You have to get that fire stoked up, and then it's got to your heat, everything's got to get hot, and then it starts blowing your hot air in. Electric furnace, the element's hot, that's it, and we're blasting. And the other thing is, a gas furnace has the way that it works for how much it can heat. It has orifices that let the gas out that it burns. An electric heater is just plated elements that slide in. So my furnace that I have it's a larger unit. It's really small, but compared to the smaller unit, it's a larger unit. I have a 6-bedroom house. But if I want to upgrade that furnace, I just have to slide 2 more of those heaters in, and then plug them in.
It's way more economical that way.
Exactly. So it's expandable. If you feel like you're not getting enough jam out of your furnace, you can
add more
heat
without a whole new unit.
Exactly.
No, I think your point also about almost like a proof of concept. To relate it to video, it's like a proof of concept thing.
It is absolutely. It is proof.
I mean, it's obviously an investment for yourself, but I can imagine when you next year when you really start hammering, you really start selling, because we're up until now you haven't really even started to sell.
No, exactly.
So when you do that, it's going to be really powerful, even if it's not you who's physically doing this part of it. But it's really going to be really powerful. I use this exact system I'm trying to sell to you in my rental property,
and it works.
And it works. I'm seeing a return on my investment already, starting to see a return on that investment. And I imagine with the rental property, it goes from 8 to 12 years down.
Oh yeah,
quite a bit, right? Because you're making even more positive on that. On that, you're not just not paying a power bill; you're getting money for
what normally would be just going to the power company.
Exactly.
Right, because normally, when you're including an all-inclusive rent, you tack on an extra $100 a person or $50 a person to try and compensate what those bills would normally be. Well, they're just paying that to me. So, I'm acting as jury, judge, and executioner for the utilities. So it's a win-win-win.
Yeah. Well, not even mention the location of your house, which, yeah. I mean, I think that should have a premium all its own. It's fucking steps away from Sask Polytechnic or whatever.
We were very fortunate. We really stepped into location. One of the first ones we looked at, it was just perfect, and
in a great location.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's had tons of roof space. We got it for a pretty good price. There's a lot of work put into it, and it's still ongoing as we speak. But that's the other thing.
But for what you were looking for, though, having to put the work in is worth it because of all the other positives that you got out of it. And I know you guys were looking at this more as a longer term investment and not I need to flip it right now and sell it. It's
And one of the other points I want to raise about that specific house, which is why I think it's multifold such a strong proof of concept, is because well, first of all, it's going to be all electric. So I didn't fuck around. I was like, we're putting an electric furnace in. And the guy's like, this is really expensive. I'm like, I don't know if you want to do this because not many people are doing electric furnaces right now. When I called Sask Energy to get my gas meter removed, she's like, why do you want your gas meter removed? Do you want a new one? I was like, no, I want my gas cut off. She's like, well, how are you heating your home? I'm like, with electric. It's like, ooh. But, you know, like...
Solar is still such a fringe thing. I can see why they would think that.
And I'm a strong believer, and I'm kind of like this with the film thing that we talk about sometimes. We don't want to be doing what everyone else is doing.
And I think that there's a fine line between being an early adopter and being too early.
Yeah.
But I think I think again we're just all we are very fortunate that we're with the film thing that we're coming in at the time that we are.
Yeah.
I think you're coming in at the right time with this as well, because it's a new market, and you're definitely early to the game, but you're not so early that 3 years from now you're going to have run your course because there's no one interested.
Yeah.
Like Tesla has provided, and that's who you represent right now. You're a licensed installer for them, but they have just the things that they're doing have provided so much visibility to this market that I think you're going to really see. It's
this new wave where people with money are getting involved, and it's not about green hippie, the hippie movement.
But it has the added benefit of also being good for the environment. But as soon as people can see this as what it is, which is an investment, and I think people are starting to see it as that. Like, if you know you're going to be in your home for the next 20 years, why would you not invest in something like this?
Buy your energy.
Exactly, because it's like you said, guaranteed return of investment. Not to mention, it simplifies things.
Yeah. Anyway, the last two things I want to say about that house. So everything's electric. The other thing is the house is older than hell. It's a big old house. The insulation is like wood chip insulation, so it's not very energy efficient, which isn't good for me. But it's good that now, and also the third thing is the roof is steep. Like, these panels were one of the toughest installs we'll ever have to do. So with that being said, when I have to go and pitch this to a customer, I don't have to worry about their insulation being worse than mine. I don't have to worry about their roof being steeper than mine. This house is worst case scenario for a solar install, which is fine because it still works. It's like, I believe that solar is valuable anywhere. But if you were going to pick a hellhole to not put it on, it would probably be that house.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
For those reasons.
So if it can work there, it can work anywhere.
Yeah.
And we've installed it there, so we can install it anywhere. And I'm not worried about that because...
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I really want to look into for my family, like my mother's properties in Ontario.
Oh yeah, it's definitely very valuable.
Because Hydro 1 fucks you in the ass, and that would be such a great investment for her to make. Especially if it provides equity to the home beyond just paying for power.
Oh yeah, it absolutely does. The big thing right now is it will provide equity in a property, I know, for resale. The problem is that if you want to go and take a loan out on your house for some sort of other investment or a renovation, I'm not sure where we're at right now, and I've been talking to house appraisers, I've been talking to the banks and trying to kind of get a lead on it because they don't know how to value it because it's new, and everything that's new is scary, and they don't want to go ahead and overpromise the value on something to the bank.
Well, I know, like, even 5 years ago, it was like a negative thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh, it's this ugly fucking panel. Like, who wants that house with
ugly shit on the roof?
Yeah. And now it's not that, because I don't think it looks ugly like anymore. Like,
I don't know. Ours looks sleek, and I like it. Honestly, like, the very first panels we bought had black frames. It's like they're an all black panel, black frames.
And it's tough to see, yeah.
They look very sleek. The ones on the Moose Jaw house have the old silver frames, but it looks...
It doesn't look bad.
It looks future. It looks modern. It looks...
Yeah.
It's an eye drawer. It draws the eye, and it's like, how beautiful is your fucking roof anyway?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Well, especially, like, again, like, I know Tesla's coming out with the solar roof, which is going to be a game changer in that department.
It's going to change the whole world for sure.
Yeah. It's comparative in price to just a normal roof.
Yeah.
Plus it generates power and reduces your bill. So, like,
and it lasts forever.
And it lasts forever. So, like,
yeah, that's kind of the one thing that I've tried to follow closely with the way that we do things is I think a lot of people who sell or get invested emotionally and financially in new products and services getting blinded by it. And it's like, this product is so good. It's like, well, what about this thing that's wrong with it? It's like, fuck that, it's good. You really have to step back with something like solar because it's so new and say, like...
Is this the time? Because it is.
Is this the time? But it's also, what... Like, I need to sit down and figure out the 100 questions people are going to ask me and how it's the opposite of that. So, like, you know, Elon Musk, and I think the whole team at Tesla, obviously, he didn't just do this all engineering and designing himself.
No.
But it's like, you know, well, how much is it going to cost? Well, fuck you. It's as cheap as a regular roof. It's like, well, that's all well and good, but these fucking solar panels, they're going to smash up. How long's your warranty good for? Forever. Fuck you. The warranty's forever.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, well, what about the easiest installation there is? You know, it's like, not only is it making excuses or trying to provide the alternative to it, it's like, I'm doubling back on you.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, well, this thing has 25-year warranty. It's like, our thing is infinity warranty. You know, like, stuff that seems completely... Ridiculously... A deliverable that doesn't sound realistic. Right. It's like, fuck it, we're doing it.
Yeah.
It's like, you're not going to space anymore? Fuck it, I'm going to space. Like, I don't care what you have to say. And I really appreciate that instead of, like, you know, billionaire investors who just try and make more money. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to, like, something I think we've talked about before, but compassionate capitalism. And it's like, you're making an investment, you're trying to turn a profit, but you're not doing so at the expense of the environment or people or anything else. You're still going in with the motive to make money, but just not at a moral cost. And I think that's the way of the future. I really think that, especially talking about solar. I mean, I think solar energy has always, since it was first starting to become viable, it wasn't a question of if, it was a question of when.
Exactly.
When is this going to be the thing? I think we're really starting to see it now. So,
and we kind of, the industry, renewables as a whole, kind of shot itself in the foot with wind. Wind is a great, it's a great resource, but it's
super inefficient. It's so expensive,
and the maintenance on it is so difficult. There's lots of great places like in Europe where they're doing offshore wind, which is the thing I'm so worried about with that kind of stuff is, you know, we can do all the studies in the world, but we don't know how it's going to affect the water and the tide and all this shit when we start ramming a bunch of stuff into the ocean. Because, you know, you can put up a windmill and just monitor it for 5 years to see that it doesn't affect anything. It's like, oh, actually the coral's growing on the base of this thing. Like, it's so amazing.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's all well and good. But when you fucking magnemize it, it's like, yeah, there's 10,000 of them out there now. And it's maybe this little thing that affects something just a little bit.
Butterfly effect.
Butterfly effect with all that stuff.
Well, not to mention that solar is only getting more and more efficient. So that even in places where there's minimal sun, it is going to eventually be more efficient to have solar.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's already super efficient. Like, it's not that it's inefficient now. It's that it's only going to get more efficient.
And like, you know, Elon Musk has been talking... They could power all of the U.S. with like a kilometer squared panels in the middle of the Arizona, like in the fucking completely unusable, unairable desert. He's like, we could just do it right now. We could just generate all the power for the U.S. in this one zone. Like,
and their infrastructure is fucked.
Yeah.
If they don't do something like that, it's like, what is it, like a decade? It's going to be massive power outages and riots. And
they've got to do something.
They've got to do something.
And we've just got to make sure that...
Like, hell, even if it was just California, Nevada, and Arizona that were able to power themselves, that would take a huge burden off the grid.
Mm-hmm. No, and you're absolutely right. My only concern is that we're starting to see now big oil is getting into renewables. So, for example, the wind farm at Gull Lake in Gull Lake, Saskatchewan is part owned by Suncor and part owned by Enbridge. It's called the Sunbridge Wind Farm. That's all well and good, and which is a good sign for investors. If oil field companies are moving into renewables,
well, the thing is they have to, because like
they know that's what's up.
Yeah, not to mention with where the price of oil is right now, it's like, let's move here, and like not all the government subsidies are there, and I get it, but I know what you're gonna say. It's like
they're gonna put up these solar farms, and it's like, well, we're still charging for power. It's like, fuck you, you're getting the power for free, and now you're charging for it. You know what I mean? And there's no, like, there's some cost. Like, if you start building massive solar farms, Like somebody's got to be there to like
maintain
things. Like there's going to be small maintenance. It's negligible for a homeowner. Like you never have to fucking touch them. But you start putting
50 times the panels that you have in your house and
outside in the fucking middle of the desert. Like some shit is bound to happen to it.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some cost, but it's so negligible. Like, can you imagine? It's a bunch of panels people set up. And then they've already got like self-powered solar squeegee things to clean them and stuff. But like when you put gas in your car, you've got to go into Fort Mac, go to a drill underground, load that into a truck, drive that truck to a refinery. Then a bunch of people got to refine it,
process it.
Then they got to drive that to your pump. Like there's a lot of costs in transmitting that energy. And fossil fuels still have a lot of bang for your buck. Like. There's so much energy in burning that fossil fuel, and that's why it's still so viable.
Well, not to mention, like, I think, like, the other thing that we haven't seen yet, that I know they're working on, is once we can, it's about battery technology and being able to supercharge batteries.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily about having batteries being able to store a ton of power. It's like if we can charge a battery in 20 minutes, fully charge this huge battery that can power a fucking car, then for free. Like you just plug it in and it doesn't cost you anything. Or just have a solar panel on the car. Like however that works, it's eventually going to be a thing. We just haven't figured out how that's going to happen.
Self-powered vehicles, that's incredible. Like
yeah.
And it's coming. We've got transparent solar technology now where they're talking about putting
solar windows in houses.
Exactly, and on your screen of your phone.
Yeah.
And it's like even if it doesn't charge your phone up to full, or it doesn't charge as fast as you reduce it.
It keeps it not using power while you're outside.
Exactly, sure. So you got your screen out, and it's constantly, at least fighting the degradation of the battery over the day.
Well, now I'm thinking like solar windows and a solar roof. You're guaranteed your bills to zero.
Very, very, very tough to use the energy more than that. Like, I have a big roof, mind you, but I've covered a fucking wall to wall. There's no room left on my roof, but I got a 6-bedroom house. There's gonna be 6 tenants living there, 2 stoves, 2 dryers, electric furnace, 80-gallon electric water heater, which is twice the size of a regular water heater, computers, fans, heaters, all this shit. And I think we're gonna be able to do it. And if we can't, it's only gonna be $30 or $40 a month, maybe, of above and beyond the power usage.
And that's already. You're still going to make a profit on what they're paying you.
Exactly.
For full power. You're not losing money.
It's about the old corporate motto of profit maximization. The other cool technology that we're using that I think people should look into, and it's going places, is we use a Nest thermostat. And you and I have talked about that a little bit. Essentially, what Nest thermostat is it's a modern smart thermostat. And number one, they look beautiful. It's a little black circle. It's got a little stainless steel ring on the outside and a little digital display. And all it has is the number and then a dial on the outside. And what that does is it's your thermostat, but you control it from your phone. It emails you once a month to show you how much power you're using, and it's constantly trying to save you power. So if it can tell that your cell phone left the house, it's going to turn the heat down. It knows usually it'll every single time you adjust that thermostat, it goes by day, month, year, or not year, day, month, and like. Then it creates a pattern. So it's like on summer days, you turn it right completely down. Or like, usually in November, she starts turning the thermostat up a little bit. And then it just automatically is changing itself all the time. So the whole point is you have that thermostat for 3 years. You don't need to adjust it anymore. Mm-hmm. So
it's a totally smart system. Yeah.
Yeah, totally a smart system, which I think is really awesome. And for me, it's huge because my power costs are so high. One of the things is making sure that when my tenants are gone, that the fucking thermostat isn't at 26 degrees and there's nobody there and it's just heating a building for no reason.
Right.
And I think that's like we talked about, when the future comes and we've got enough, we're generating so much power that we don't even give a shit. Like, run the furnace all the live long day, vent it outside, like heat the atmosphere. Who cares? Because we're getting the power for free anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like you're not burning anything that's hurting the environment on top of that.
Nothing's wearing out. It doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, there is some, like, your fan and your furnace, if you just ran it all the time, would eventually wear out. But it's the small things.
Yeah.
It becomes less a conversation of efficiency, and that's another one that I'm interested in. these small town rinks.
Yeah,
right
that
now,
would be a huge investment for them, right?
there's a big push to try and work on efficiency. And efficiency's all well and good, but these efficient systems that they're installing are wearing out. And,
You're better off to find efficiency in the
Fucking
costs associated with running the...
generate the fucking power,
Yeah.
and then it doesn't matter how efficient the system is. Obviously, yes, if you can make the system more efficient, you can run the system longer. But if you have enough solar power that you're paying, that you don't have to pay for electricity anymore, which is huge cost. Like some of these places are like $4,000 or $5,000 a month in power, so you don't have to pay that bill anymore. Now we don't have to. If you had that system installed, you don't have to do rink fundraisers anymore because the rink is now profiting compared to what it used to, $5,000 a month. Obviously they're coming up with that money now to pay the bill because the bill's getting paid, so that money would be going in their pocket, and it's such a waste. Like $20,000 for a small town rink could rebuild so much stuff. You know what I mean? And like,
Yeah, not to mention like, honestly, like I'm thinking like that could, some of that money could go into programming.
exactly. And
You could bring hockey coaches in. You could have a league.
and then like right now, what Caber's done, luckily due to its proximity to Swift Current, is days that the community's not using the rink, they sell the ice time, and the ice time is already booked, 8 a.m. till midnight every day for the whole winter. It's already all booked.
Really, in Hazlet.
Like in Cabre.
In Cabre, yeah.
Yeah, like Swift Current hockey teams, because they don't have very many rinks, they got lots of people, come out and do their practices and have their fundraisers and do their tournaments and stuff like that. So, if you're generating more power, that means earlier in the year you can start turning that ice plant on. Because right now they wait till the middle of October, end of November to get that power plant going. If you can have that ice plant on in
The fall.
September,
Yeah.
August, it's gonna cost money to run because it's a lot more electricity to run, obviously, to create ice in the heat. But if you have enough people coming in there to pay that bill anyway, and it's still reduced from what it normally would be, you're really making money now because your power bill's nothing, and you can keep the rink open longer, more days, more people. Fuck, you'd make a shitload of money, and you can rebuild the goddamn rink for, after a 5 or 6 year period. So that's really,
Well, especially if you do one, it's like if you sell it to donors, like help us fundraise to get this solar system in so we can be self-sufficient.
yeah. And then we don't need to have these fundraisers anymore.
Yeah.
And
Not to mention you approach like a business guy who is maybe a little bit philanthropic.
yeah,
Who's like, maybe I'll install this at cost for you guys because, you're a non-profit organization and I like helping you guys out.
exactly. And then they're generating profits for the community. Now, that's one last point, I guess we're probably close, but that I want to bring up, which is amazing about solar is, great for the residential homeowner, great for a small investment for them. Commercial buildings, you own a company that refrigerates products, and what are your operating costs going towards?
Fucking power.
Power bills. What happens when you install that solar system? Now, you're essentially running your business for free, and you're making, like, your profit margins are astronomical after that. You know what I mean?
Well, besides the initial investment.
Obviously, you have to pay for that investment. But, if you have a nice new refrigerant warehouse, that solar system is going to make the books look a lot healthier.
Hell, just even, let's say you just own a series of just big industrial properties that you have to heat and cool.
Exactly. It's got to be done.
Beyond like I'm not even talking like refrigeration, but just like
just cooling.
Just big properties. I mean, heat's probably like you probably don't really need to cool them as much.
No.
Heat them in the winter for sure.
Oh, definitely. They have to be heated if you're going to use them.
Yeah.
And so that's a great thing. And why not commercial tenants? Like if you're leasing your property out, and you can, and it would be insane. Nobody would ever do this in the current system. But if you have a commercial property where the tenant or the owner is looking after the utility bill, that's built into, you have a flat rate. And, that's probably a little peace of mind for a lease or renter, because now when they're looking at their financial statements, they're seeing that, the rate is flat. It doesn't matter
if 1 month they had to produce more or whatever.
Yeah,
and
it's all included in, and then that also, creates a way more...
it's way more attractive for them to take to a loan officer to be like, yeah, we have our utilities.
It's all looked after.
It's all looked after. It's a flat rate, or not all our utilities, but our primary utility. is
exactly.
a flat
Water
rate.
is so negligible by comparison.
Yeah.
We don't know where we're going to be in a while, but I don't have any way to make water at the time stands, or else I would.
Yeah.
If I can have my rental property where I got collected our own water.
Yeah, if you had like a well or something.
Yeah, exactly. Or an artesian well on my property.
Yeah.
Any other final questions, comments, concerns?
No, I think it's just a fascinating opportunity, and I mean, I think we're probably, as Prehistoric Productions, going to get a chance to do some copy and do some advertisements for this, and I think I'm really excited to work in that market and in that capacity, because I think it's really, I think it's important to push out. B, I think it's an incredibly lucrative thing. It's not just like, we're not just selling like carbon offset or something like that. We're actually selling something that has tangible, real value.
Yeah.
And three, I think it's just it's a new thing, and I'm always excited about being involved in the cutting edge.
It's cool. Yeah. It's finally become cool.
Yeah.
And stuff that's cool is cool.
Yeah.
It's cool.
It's dope. We were talking about that the other day. It's dope.
It's fucking dope. Okay, well, thank you guys for tuning in.
Maybe one more Sans Frans podcast, at least in this next chunk, I think so. But we'll see.
It was
we'll see
really
what happens.
nice. This couch is a lot more comfortable with one person.
Yeah, and like we had nice, quiet,
just a good,
reasoned
conversation, intelligent, articulate. Oh,
so nice.
Oh, no childish games, prostitutes, and
whatever that is, he does.
Whatever he does in his spare time.
Yeah.
Boy.
Boy.